You know, following on from this Russian Ukraine conflict, you know, what I did earlier, from what I think it was to do with a recap on what I read on the, you know, the article from the Daily Mail Online article which I read, which aroused more, aroused my suspicions, something to do with where it was heading to. And you know what I did was Googled that, and you know I found out it was their reports themselves were contradictory to what they said. You know, one destination was Kuala Lumpur, and then the other one was, I think, Australia. On this MH17 flight, which you know, which was suspicious again and contradictory from Daily Mail. And so what I did, uh, you know, from that, I looked up and I kept on just looking through traces. Because as soon as I started seeing it, you know, weird stuff, even from this original article, I wanted to make sure, you know, what had been reported was truth. You know, just from looking at contradictory things. And you know, what I'll go through in a minute is what I found out. You know, these are through mainly Daily Mail articles. You know, the connection to the M370, which went missing as well, is part of this as well, which, you know, a lot of other people, critical thinkers, have actually thought about themselves. Uh, you know, first of all, we'll start with, I think this is, yeah, the M370. And what we'll go from the M370 and the connections with the MH17, which we'll go into. First of all, I noticed I think they're the same model plane. I know they're 777s, one might be an EE or something, but you know, they're just the same size, everything same markings. So you know what I started with, what I found out about that is contradictory reports regarding the M370 leaving Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. And you know what I saw, there's an article where a US air pilot admitted to shooting down the plane for starters. And then, you know, there was one what's saying, which I did say in the first thing as a possible, from what I read, you know, based on, I think it was through Putin, you know, a possible hijack. Someone said that Putin hijacked that plane and they landed it in Kazakhstan, which I think is Pakistan, I'm not sure though. And then, you know, one says a plane went missing over Malaysia. And you know, it couldn't be traced. You know, there was a worldwide search, as everyone knows. You know, so, you know, as you know, there was, I think, Australia, lots of other countries around that area, around, I think, I can't remember what part ocean it is, but you know, over that part, you know, so that, first of all, that contradicts with, you know, first of all, another Daily Mail article saying that a US pilot shot down the plane already. This is how my mind was thinking, coming across these articles. And then another report was saying the plane was found 7 hours on radar later, on radar pings. And I asked, why did they need a worldwide search to find it if they knew it was in Kazakhstan? You know, why did they not track it down for starters? That's just critical thinking, all based on the Daily Mail articles I'll show you. You know, because that's telling me a lot of contradictory things already, you know, firstly. Why did they do a worldwide search? This is what followed off. If a US pilot shot it down and had knowledge, you know, why didn't anybody inform anyone of that in the first place? And then, you know, another one, I found an article showing debris on Perth Beach in Australia. Beach, I think it's showing one piece of the plane, and I was putting surely more than one piece would have been found of the debris on that beach of the plane, because you know, whether that plane would have crashed, it would have been in pieces in one area, and it would have floated towards that beach in more bits than just this little panel that they found. You know, there's other light bits in that plane, more than the panel would have done. You know, like the wings are lighter. So you know, that didn't make sense either. You know, every alarm bells were ringing already. You know, seeing all these different articles from different dates. And then why was the search going on for a missing plane? You know, as I said again, if this US pilot admitted to shooting it down, you know, when he found it. you know, that everybody was acting, you know, and then as if they didn't know what was going on. And then, as I said, you know, it doesn't make sense because one saying the plane was the plane was shot down. Others were saying Putin hijacked it, landed in Kazakhstan. Then it's saying one report saying 7 hours later after the plane went missing, you know, it's found on radar, you know, and they tracked it down to Kazakhstan. And yet, you know, there were reports saying that's the worldwide search for this plane, you know, first of all, that they couldn't find it and therefore they were scouring massive areas of the oceans and that, you know, everywhere they could. So, you know, if, therefore, you know, why, if, if these authorities, which will show, found it and tracked it down on the radar, you know, after it disappeared, that doesn't make sense either, you know, when I start putting these things together, lots of contradictory things. And then regarding the MH17, you know, one report saying travelling to Kuala Lumpur, others said Australia, based on that actual article, you know, what I first read. Uh, as I said, MH17 M370, same model plane. I think, you know, one's 777, one's something something like that. Could even be the same model. You know, and as I said, that plane, apart from this panel on the beach, they said they found, you know, which I don't believe myself, and a lot of other critical thinkers don't. You know, there's something suspicious about that, first of all. You know, the connection with that itself, you know, because, you know, a lot of people said, you know, about that, actually M370, you know, about the radar system being disabled. First of all, you know, those planes, especially since 9/11, and you know the threat level, what it would have been in the first place. You know, I'm sure that those radar systems are so secure, firstly, that it would be near enough impossible for anyone to even deactivate those unless professionally or an inside job sort of thing. And so, you know, that's how far I got on that. And then, as I said, you know, there's this one, Daily Mail, US military shot down MH370 because they thought it had been hacked and was about to be used in a terror attack, claims former line Airbus. You know, that's from December 2014. And then we've got Australia in the morning, full horror of MH17 hits home. This is the MH17. Identities of more victims emerge, including author and young German woman moving to Perth to start a new life. I mean, as you can see there, there's something, I'm trying to remember the MH17, but you know, as far as I know, you know, the MH17 was reported to go into Kuala Lumpur on one article, if I recall correctly, which I'll get to, and yet it's saying this MH17 was travelling to Perth on this one. First of all, you know, that doesn't make sense to me. And then we've got Vladimir Putin ordered Russian special forces steal MH370 and secretly landed it at a huge spaceport in Kazakhstan, claims expert. You know, these things, they don't make sense, you know, when you think about it. And there's this satellite imagery they're saying. And then we've got one saying, I don't know if that's the same article. MH17 Malaysia plane crash in Ukraine, what we know. I'm not sure what I got from that one. Yeah, that's the one, look, MH17 from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. Right there, you know, that's the MH17. And then we rewind back to there. And it's saying, young German woman moving to Perth, you know. And where it said on the article I saw, you know, that was saying also, you know, to Australia as well. So, you know, these things don't make sense either. You know, first of all, why these, you know, went out, you know, the same paper as well. And even BBC, I think, said, you know, that it was firstly travelling Kuala Lumpur and then it's travelling to Perth, Australia, you know, or Australia itself. You know, that makes my alarm bells ring, you know, first of all. You know, so this is all I've got so far, and I'll put it all down, you know, on there. I believe on this connection with Australia, on this original article, that it was regarding the families, and I remember, you know, seeing something very distinctive with, I think it's this dude here. I know it was an adult. Yeah, on his way to spend a year in Australia. You know, this is regarding the MH17. Now, going back to there, you know, we've got, hold on. Wait a minute, it's been a pain in the eye. You know, this doesn't make sense because, hold on, I think it might have been BBC. I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, look. Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, MH17. So you know why, you've got to ask yourself why. You know, this report is saying it was travelling to 2 different places. First of all, you know, it was going Australia, then it's going Kuala Lumpur, then Kuala Lumpur, Australia. So you know, that's saying lies already. And you know, as I said, and then you revert back to, you know, US military shot down MH17, and then there's things about worldwide searches, then there's things about Putin hijacking a plane, landed it in Kazakhstan, being on the radar 7 hours after, you know, going missing. Then they were saying, you know, at the start, you know, for a long time, it took a year, you know, again, it took a year search to find this plane, and they were looking for it. And yet, you know, another thing saying on radar, you know, they caught this plane 7 hours after on radar pings, and then found it in you know, Kazakhstan in an air hangar. You know, same papers saying the main things as well. So you know, this is where, you know, mainstream media and that thing behind them lying about things, you know, they give themselves away, you know, when they do these things, and you know, you see yourself, and that's just one of what a class corporate owned media, you know, actually lying about things. So yeah, we'll carry on this, and you know, obviously on here you've got one thing saying one, you know, as you can see, this is saying 22nd December 2014, the US military shut down MH370 because they thought it had been hacked and was about to be used in a terror attack. Now that's the MH370, and you know, based on this one, what we'll start off with, you know, as I said, you know, there's a lot of contradictory things about that one itself, and what I'll try to find the ties to what other people did. You know, there is a picture where they, you know, with like near enough forensic style picture, but probably was ridiculed because it was on conspiracy sites. But you know about the MH370, you know, basically everything is exactly the same plane as far as I remember, but you know what gave it away, and the pictures and what connected it to the MH17 was basically, you know, like they have like a number on it, you know, a distinctive number of what they are, like a taxi or something probably would have like on its plates, and there's a connection to that. I'll get to that, but you know, the M370, as I said, you know, US military shut down MH17. They thought they'd been hacked. I would have seen hijacked probably. You know, you've got all these things there. You know, he claims that islanders saw the plane fly close to a US base. Says US Navy in the Indian Ocean attacked the plane. Also alleges that a spy told him to back away from his probe into MH370. And then, you know, you've got former executive defunct, you know, saying it all there. saying hacked, so I don't know what that means. You know, I'm assuming that's something to do with a radar. You know, shut down near a US military base in the remote island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. You know, that's that first one it's saying. You know, there's even, you know, the search efforts for it. You know, they were saying it took a year, and it doesn't make sense to me. You know, based on that, because as I said, you know, I'll follow through to this, but this was never told. I never articles. You know, it was all contradictory based on the MH370. You know, they were saying that they found it crashed in the sea on one article. You know, they found it crashed there. They didn't say anything about it shooting down. First of all, so you know, you've got to ask yourself why these articles are saying contradictory things. You've got all this, see what we're going through. Chinese passengers missing Malaysia Airlines flight. You know, this is just about the protesting. You know, there's a lot of weird things about that. This is a short article anyway, so, you know, they're saying it's a Boeing 777 vanished March the 8th from Kuala Lumpur to China's capital, Beijing. You know, there's a lot of weird things about it. And then it's saying that, you know, Australia's been spearheading the hunt for the plane, which is believed to have crashed in the South Indian Ocean of Western Australia and stuff like that. And then moving on to there, you know, as I said, I know it's the MH17. And then, you know, I've got this one where they say about Vladimir Putin ordered Russian special forces to steal MH370. Secretly landed at whose spaceport, Kazakhstan. And you know, says Jeff Wise, science author, believes the MH370 part of a secret Russian hijack mission. Putin spoofed the flight data and landed the plane in Kazakhstan. Satellite data suggests the plane flew for hours after losing contact. Experts say it strongly suggests it was deliberately flown off course. Flight vanished on March the 8th from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. And you know, I think this might be the one that's saying, you know, about that. About the pings, the radar pings are something 7 hours after the hijacking. You know, as I said, you know, they're saying it took a year or so to find this plane, and this is why I don't get, because whoever it was, and it doesn't matter who it was, you know, if they actually caught this on the radar in the first place, you know, 7 hours after it had disappeared, and they're saying they tracked it down to Kazakhstan. You know, this doesn't make sense to me, because you know, how could critical thinking, you know, why were they still looking for this plane where they basically, when they knew where it was? They're saying they knew it was in Kazakhstan. They're saying they knew it was caught on radar 7 hours after it went missing, but you know, at the same time before this article would have came around. You know, I'm not too sure when this article came around anyway, but you know, it's saying 2015, you know, so that was over a year after. You know, after a year or so, you know, why during that year, you know, as after it had gone missing, you know, why did that, you know, not just the Australian government and that, you know, like China and that, everyone around that area looking for this plane. So, you know, I think I've got used to saying it the Aussie way, Australia. But you know, how come all these authorities and that were looking across all these oceans and that, looking for it as if they didn't know where it was, when, you know, someone's saying that they caught that on radar, you know, 7 hours after it went missing, and that they tracked it down to Kazakhstan. You know, so that's already contradictory to me as well. I'm just using critical thinking without theory, you know, asking these things for you to ask yourself, you know, for you to think for that. You know, it's saying US science writer who spearheaded CNN's coverage of the 777-200E MH370 has based his outlandish theory on pings that the plane gave off for 7 hours after it went missing that were recorded by British telecommunications company Inmarsat. So you know, it's saying British Telecoms actually picked up the radar ping 7 hours after, right? Pings right there. Believes hijackers spoofed the plane's navigation data to make it seem like it went in another direction but flew to the, can't even say that, it was based in Kazakhstan by Russia. However, Wise admits in New York magazine that he doesn't know why Vladimir Putin would want to steal the plane full of people, and this idea is crazy. You know, and then it's saying you know, this is where it's saying about the base, the possible base Kazakhstan. You know, the satellite footage, you know, I'm not seeing a plane on me as far as I can see anyway. There's no. It's saying a possibility. I mean, that's not proof, first of all. So you know what I'll line on to, and this is based on you know, what I've been seeing. You know, before the biased thing comes along again, which ironically would be used. You know, where one saying the other, one saying the other, one saying the other, and these are all you know, Daily Mail articles. You know, you're saying a lot of weird things. You know, weird things. I'm just going through anything, you know, what's more quoted, you know, than you know, theories, because you know, I'm going from, you know, what they've reported and what they're saying. You know, there's what they've reported from people who said what they said. You know, that satellite data from the MH370 showed that the plane made several turns after the last radio call before finally heading towards Antarctica. You know, it's just weird, you know. And Antarctica, that's north, right? If I'm right, I can't remember. Or is it south? I think that might be south. You know, I'm not very good with those areas, but you know, as I said, you know, based on this thing, you know, mainly, you know, about the 7 hours caught on radar pings, as I said, and they're saying that it went to Kazakhstan. You know, it doesn't make sense, first of all, does it? But I'll move on to what's after that. And Antarctica, that's north, right? If I'm right, I can't remember. So just going through what. You know, I'm not very good with those areas, but you know, as I said, you know, there's a lot of weird stuff. You know, mainly. I'll just go from what facts they've put, or what they've reported. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things in that one as well. You know, that's why I put across these things. See what else. So just going through what I can see. So yeah, just going from what I'm seeing. You know, I mean, it's saying there, you know, MH17 vanished March 8, 2014. You know, no trace of the plane so far, which is a year later. You know, everyone was suspicious about that in the first place when it did go missing, not just because, you know, like post 9/11 and that, but you know, especially with the technology they've got today, and even the main thing to do with the radars and those planes, etc. You know, that would be the biggest threat, you know, after 9/11, and how tragic that was in the first place. So you know, there was a lot of things that didn't make sense about that. All about this, you know, this one. This is why I asked myself, you know, when I saw these things. You know, so far they've been unsuccessful in tracking down any piece of the aircraft, trying to predict its floating paths to locate the wreckage site by considering how the aircraft would have collided with the water. So you know, there was a lot of things that didn't make sense about that. All about this, you know, this one. This is why I asked myself, you know, when I saw these. So you know, so far they've been at the same time this article is saying, you know, 7 parts have redirected to the Indian Ocean, like the late statement, any trace of the wreckage on the surface of the ocean floor would have sank shores of Sumatra, Western Indonesia and stuff like that, you know. So you know, at the same time it sounds like they, you know, whoever it was who said this, you know, as if they knew or were saying that it's crashed in the water. On that same article they're saying, you know, that it was hijacked, etc. by Vladimir Putin and stuff. And it's just weird, you know, why they're saying that at the same time on this article, you know, even based on theory, you know, because when you refer back to the top on this article, which is why I'll go further through, you know, where they're saying that it's been taken to you know, it was caught on radar pings, it landed in you know, Kazakhstan, etc. You know, and yet at the same time, you know, they're still searching for it, they're suspecting it's in the range. So you know, what I would ask is, if Vladimir Putin did steal it, like, you know, why would he have the purpose to land it in Kazakhstan, you know, based in this article, and then go and crash it in the water? If you know, if they're suspecting on the same article, you know, in the Indian Ocean, you know, what would have he got from it? Because for money wise, to sell it or anything, if that was it, you know, there would be no point, because you know, you just steal the plane, land it somewhere, and then you crash it in the water, you know, so you wouldn't get profit from it. You know, wasn't used for any kind of attack, etc. So you know, motive wise, I would ask, what would his purpose be based on what this article says first of all? And you know, the main critical question is, you know, why British telecoms in the sat, you know, say they caught it on radar and they said it went to Kazakhstan or whatever. You know, they caught it on radar pings first of all, and yet, you know, it was never mentioned, or, you know, it carried on, you know, for a year or over a year. You know, after 7 hours after it went missing, you know, it's a bit suspicious to me, you know, how I see it. You know, I'll move on to another one, you know, like, that's the same article. I'll start on the M370 first of all, and then I'll move on to the MH17. But yeah, you know, when you look at these, it's weird, you know, to me, or everything about it. That's the MH17 as well. MH17. It's the same article. You know, I'll move on to another one. And then I think there was something that I tied in. Let me see what I've missed out. And then I'll move on to the MH17. But yeah, you know, when you look at these, I think that's what I vaguely went through regarding. I did have. Hold on. I swear I had it. You know, something about the. It's just fine. You know, there was an article about the, you know, the M370. For some reason, it's not on it. But fuck's sake, always something going wrong. What I saw. See if I can find it. Yeah, you know, there was something regarding the Daily Mail, and be patient with me. So you know, there's weird things going on, you know, regarding that itself, because obviously, you know, through where one thing, you know, when things saying, you know, they shut down the plane when saying that the plane was hijacked, and then there's one, you know, all those things, they don't add up, and you know, using the same paper, you know, which basically reported these things as information. Again, you know, the same one where I found, you know, contradictory things from the Russian/US mainly conflict. You know, there's something weird about that. So, you know, always look at things very thoroughly. All those things, they don't add up. You know, using the same paper. So, you know, let me keep it. Again, you know, the same one where I found, you know, contradictory things from the Russian/US mainly conflict. You know, there's something. Don't worry, I'm just sensing judgment and that, but that's nothing new from there. So, you know, always look same old shit. Let me carry on anyway. Might be the one, but you know, yeah, this might be the one I looked at earlier. Might not be, it might be, but now this is where it's saying it doesn't crash, it's a scrub. You know, regarding this, you know, which is weird as well. You know, it's being a pain in the ass. Hold on. Let me carry on anyway. No, it's still being a pain in the ass. So, might be the one. You know, yeah, still being a pain. So, you know what I saw earlier when it decides to stop being a pain is, you know, they showed. Looks like a hack as usual. So when it stops being a pain in the ass, I'll show you what. There we go. Look, trying to close down what it wants me to see as usual. Got something to hold. But you know what I'll tell you on this article is, you know, what I saw earlier, you know, what I found on my phone. It's just one little piece of plane, you know, it's a little bit of the panel, you know, based on what I said, you know, basically if a plane crashed in the sea, you know, it wouldn't just be the like, you know, the heavier parts would, you know, probably sink, but you know, like the lighter parts, you know, they'd end up on the same coast of Australia as you know, all the other parts that came off that plane. Simply put, you know, even if they didn't end up in the same, you know, in the same part, you know, they would have ended up spread out on that same coast, wherever the sea pushed those bits of debris, you know, to Perth's beach, you know, it would have carried any other like parts. So, you know, to me, which is why I'll try and find out about the what everyone else said about the M370. You know, there's something about, you know, that itself what doesn't make sense either. You know, about the story on that. You know, look, it's refusing to load, as a lot of things do when people want to hide something. But you know, this is the way it goes. So what I'll do is, which is why I'll try and find out about the what everyone else said about the M370. You know, there's something about. But as you can see, you know, about the story on that. You know, look, it's refusing to. Hold on. See if I can find another one. So yeah, you know, based on that, what it loads up, as I said, simply put again, you know, it's saying, you know, the US air pilot said he shut down the plane. The other saying Putin hijacked the plane, and then the other saying something about, well, you know, the Perth, Australia beach and that. you know, where they found a little panel out of the whole plane, you know, out of every single bit of the plane as far as I know. You know, that's where they found one little panel. And it doesn't make sense to me. You know, and what it reminds me of is, you know, that passport, you know, they found in, as I said, what the FBI found in 9/11. As I said, you know, kerosene burnt down, you know, melted beams, etc. You know, it left molten metal at the bottom. That was the story. And as I said, they found the passport of a hijacker, you know, who was still found alive later on in Europe or somewhere, first of all. And you know, the passport they found, you know, it wasn't even tarnished, wasn't even scorched, you know, at the bottom, you know, where the black boxes were even melted and destroyed. But so, you know, this is what it reminds me of with this, you know, this bit of debris they're saying they found in this plane. You know, to me it doesn't make sense at all. But you know, that's me. You know, I see it, and anyone else, you know, thinks for themselves probably would. So you know, this might still be a pain in the ass as well. But we'll find out. So yeah, you know, it's still being deciding to be a pain in the ass. So I'll see if I can do it another way. Like, still wants to hide things. But you know, when you ask yourself those things, you know, briefly, you know, why? First of all, you know, not just the paper and what they reported, but the people they interviewed, you know, are saying different things as well. You know, because all that makes it do, you know, is make everyone look like liars involved in that. You know, because as they say, you know, when you make something up, you know, you lie about something first of all, or make up stories. You know, people wise enough will find them out. That's why, you know, critical thinkers exist and that. You know, same mind state as detectives and that, and stuff like that, because, you know, they analyse things. They just remember things without, you know, like subconsciously, like I do, with that kind of mind state they have. And you know what I did, as I said, the way I worked, you know, from seeing, analysing the Daily Mail and that, you know, based on that first article I did, and you know, whatever led me on to, it was actually that article where it said something about Australia, where it was heading to, on that first article I saw. And then as I said, you know, I remember something about Kuala Lumpur. You know, I asked myself, why was this plane, you know, flying from? You know, it's saying it's flying to Kuala Lumpur, one article, and then it's saying it was flying to Australia, another article. So, you know, where was it flying to? You know, because to me that's a lie already. And then when you start seeing all the lies, you know, in other articles, you know, that's all they found here. You know, of everything. You know, this little panel. And you know, it makes you wonder, you know, how, you know, a plane that big, you know, the wind lighter than anything else. You know, obviously because, you know, they have to be, well, I don't know, that, as I said, the main body of the plane, that would be aluminium, I'd assume. But, you know, they're very light because obviously they fly. So, you know, to see out of that whole plane there, you know, for them to find just that little bit of that plane, I don't believe it at all, you know. You know, it just doesn't sound right. So, you know, there's got to be something behind it. This is why, you know, people like me, we put dots together. And, you know, something about that to me, see what. To see out of that whole plane there, you know, for them to find just that little bit of that plane at all, you know, it just doesn't sound right. So, you know, there's got to be something behind it. why you know, people like me put dots together. It's just being a pain in the ass, and you know, something about that to me. See that. So you know, I always go through. Yeah, so I was just checking the dates, just seeing if there's anything about them. But you know, to me that's weird. And what this one said. You know, I'll just go through what they say, because you know, you look at these things like you would if you were given intel or information, you know, into looking into something. And so this was, you know, just over a year after it went missing and stuff. So you know, I always go through. And you know, yeah, so, as I said, what they're saying on here, you know, is basically when they found, or what they believe was what they found of it, and you know, it's just weird, you know, when you look at it all. You know, I'll just go through what they say, because you know, you look at these things like you would if you were given intel or information, you know, into looking into something. And so this was, you know, just over a year after it went missing. And you know, a name I just saw there, the same dude, I believe, that was to do with the MH17 as well, what you said. That, I can't pronounce his name, but I remember that name, the same man, Transport Minister as well, Malaysia, Transport Minister. This same man is on, you know, on the same one about the MH17 as well, which is weird. When I see that, you know, so it's something, when you look at these things, you know, it makes you wonder. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that don't make sense from those three articles. You know, that one's saying, as I said, they shut it down. One saying Vladimir Putin hijacked it and stuff, and then there's, you know, and they caught it, etc. And then, you know, there's that one saying about it being found off Australia, Perth, on Perth, Australia beach, just a little panel. And you know, as I said, you know, simply put, you know, who's telling the truth? And at the same time, you know, why is the same paper saying three different things? And you know, what summarising that, when basically what I put, you know, they're asking the critical questions. You know, first of all, you know, about the, as I said, you know, like the you know, the British telecom company is saying 7 hours after that it went missing, they put it on radar and stuff. You know, that, you know, and they first of all, which means they would have been on it, you know, as quick as possible. You know, they wouldn't have messed around, and I'm sure they would have been looking for it at the time. You know, had their eyes out if that was the case. So you know, as soon as they picked it up on the radar pings, which they would have known it would have been that in the first place. You know, if they, you know, and even if, you know, even if they didn't know, they would have known it was an unknown aircraft. And they put from the radar echoes based on that Ukraine Russia report. You know, they would have known it was a commercial airliner from the radar ping. You know, based on if they didn't know what plane it was or didn't have its ID, you know, they would have definitely had security out there. You know, jet fighters and that, because you know, 9/11 and that, based on that, you know, it would have been a threat. You know, having a commercial airliner, you know, flying around, first of all, you know, without them knowing who, you know, what plane it is because of terrorist threats. And then even based on if they knew it was the MH370, it would have still been the same situation, because you know, they would have suspected, if that was the case, that it might have been hijacked in the first place. And again, you know, terrorists threaten that. So that doesn't make sense either. You know, the one with air pilot saying he shot the plane down. Again, that doesn't make sense, because you know, that went on for a year. You know, that that hunt for the plane, and that was never mentioned, because when you see that report mentioning Perth, Australia, and that and that beach, how it's said is they suspected it crashed in the water and stuff, but a few months before, there's a report saying a US air pilot was saying he shot it down. So you've got to ask yourself, why aren't they saying they at that point, why weren't they interrogating or whatever, interviewing this air pilot, jet fighter, and saying, where did it crash? We want you to know where it is. Because as I said, that same article further says down that they think it might have crashed in the water and stuff, and then further on, the later article isn't even saying about the air pilot shooting it down. So it doesn't look good, does it? When you see the same paper, let alone the people that they interview saying all these different things for starters. To me, so that about the M370 as well, that's a weird thing. And based on the M370 as well, what already based on the M370, as that it left Kuala Lumpur, and that's where it was last seen. Let's just put it that way. And one of the reports was saying about the MH17 travelling to Kuala Lumpur as well. How it flew off, of course, over a war zone where they said everyone suspected, everyone in Russia, Ukraine, US, they all knew that where they said there were Ukrainian rebels and where the story was saying about pro-Russian Ukrainian rebels with SAM launchers. First of all, as I said, they wouldn't, either side, whatever side you want to look at, would never do that. A responsible country or government, they would never let any kind of commercial airliner fly over a war zone for starters, let alone if they suspected there were SAM launchers over there, which could take that down. But yeah, it was travelling. The weird thing, that one of the reports is saying, the MH17 travelling to Kuala Lumpur. Last place the M370 was seen was leave out of Kuala Lumpur. And then, as I said, tied in with the MH17 again. I might move on to that one as well, which is weird to me, and it should be to anyone else. As I said, on this article you see yourself, and there's a lot through it as well. But I remember with this dude, he was on his way to spend a year in Australia. He was on that MH17, so that was saying, and there's a lot more through it, saying that they were going to Australia. And then, as I said, even the BBC News there, they're saying from MH17 from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. Why is, you got to ask yourself why. Two articles are saying, well, why these articles are saying, first of all, flying Australia, then flying Kuala Lumpur. That doesn't make sense to me, because it would have been on its way to one direction. It would have been on its way to one place, not one or the other. So that tells me there's lies said there as well. And all this thing is telling me basically lots of lies and deception. Just based on these articles and what they've reported, from people. And you've got to ask yourself why, out of all these things. That's just the way I analyse things, based on this one. I don't put in, I'm not putting in theory, but actually just using the critical thinking, asking things that don't make sense from what I've read. So, as usual, it's always up to you to, make your minds upon, and ask yourself what you think to it, because to me, you know, there's a lot of holes in that. You know, not just the MH17, but the M370, and both Malaysian Airlines as well, which is weird, you know. I don't know if they're, I'll try and find it, but you know, on the fix on it, shoot. Ask yourself what you think to it, because to me, you know, there's a lot of holes in that. You know, not just the MH17. You can put them down on here, and there was something about the yeah, on the back. It's like a taxi or something, you know, it has its own plate. You know, that one, weirdly enough as well, you know, MRO, MRD, both the same again, you know, apart from the D and the O. RO, RD on there. You know, very similar looking planes if they're not up to scale. As I said, one was saying, I don't know if they've got their full names to them, but if they are the same model plane, it makes you wonder even more. You know, based on these, what people found out about those. Because, you know, obviously they found plane wreckage, full plane wreckage in the Ukraine. But you know, with the M370, looking at that Daily Mail, they put in Perth and that, where they only found a little panel out of all the wreckage. So you know, this other one here, you know, as it said, you know, MRD, 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 MRO. You know, there's something weird about that as well. You know, more than coincidental. You know, these both, and you know, based on the, now thinking about it, you know, the Ukraine incident. You know, basically where in the Ukraine they found a whole plane, the MH17, and then in the M370, you know, they only found a little panel on the beach of Bray. You know, that wouldn't be hard to just basically leave that panel on the beach, you know, and stuff. It was a false flag, and it's just going slowly. Let me see when it decides to wake up or carry on. Now thinking about it, you know, the Ukraine incident. You know, basically where in the Ukraine they found a whole plane. So wait, it's being a pain in the ass. And then in the M370, you know, they only found a little panel on the beach of Australia. You know, that wouldn't be hard to just basically leave that panel on the beach, you know, and stuff. It was a false flag. And it's just going slowly. Let me see when it decides to wake up or carry on. What I noticed, what I just thought to myself, or maybe someone else, but you know, based on saying 18th of July, you know, the MH17, I'm not sure the exact date when that actually was shut down over the Ukraine, but you know what I do know is it wasn't long after. You know, the M370 as well, you know, that went missing on March the 8th, 2014. So this MH17 crash was not long after, you know, July 2014. And you know, on here, you know, where they show you all the debris. And you know what I noticed? And you know, based on what, my theory, what I noticed, you know, where this, what I just thought to myself, or maybe someone else thought, but you know, based on saying 18th of July, you know, the MH17, I'm not sure the exact date when that actually was shut down over the Ukraine, but you know what I do know is it wasn't long after. You know, the M370 as well, you know, that went missing on March the 8th, 2014. So this MH17 crash was not long after, you know, July 2014. And you know, on here, you know, where they show you all the debris. of the plane and stuff. And you know, based on, you know, where I put my theory in, you know, where this M370 wreckage was found on Perth, you know, a year after. You know, if they wanted to get that panel from the debris of the plane in the Ukraine, you know, and plant that on that beach, you know, to me with theory that would make more sense. You know, when you look at the, as I said, you know, when you look at what they're showing, basically forensic analysis sort of thing, with these two planes as well. You know, when you're looking at that, and not just that as well, you see that one as well, you know, that's showing those both planes, M370, 9M MRO, arrow at the front, and then RD, 9M MRD, MH17, you know, that's weird to me, and I think it would be to anyone else, because as I said, you know, where I'm sitting now, I can't even tell if the O is a D, or the D is a O, you know, sitting further back from the screen. The same as the front, you know, RO and RD. You know, when you tie these things together, it makes you wonder, you know, where I'll start to do the theory. And I don't know if whatever conspiracy theorists, critical thinkers thought, because I haven't looked for there. But this is how I've worked it out. You know, that first of all, you know, the M370, that goes missing in March the 8th. It shut down around July or something over the Ukraine. Or the MH17 they said it was. But you know what, I'll try and put this right. MH17 gets shot down over the Ukraine around July time. And the M370 that went missing March time the same year. You know, the MH17, you know, there's debris and stuff from the crash of that over the Ukraine. And then, you know, March 2015, a year later, after, you know, the M370, sorry, my mind's, but basically they find, you know, debris of what they say is the M370, you know, in Perth, Australia, you know, a little tiny panel. And you know, when you think about it, all based in theory, if they wanted to, what they would have had to done is take a little bit of debris from the plane in the Ukraine, and you know, plant that in on that beach in Australia, you know, a year later, and say, look, we found this missing plane. You know, what I don't get is what would have happened to the MH17. You know, what would have happened to that? You know, because obviously the M370 based in 3 would have been the plane that was actually shot down over the Ukraine, i.e. false flag, you know, sort of thing. You know, MH17, I don't know the people's fears behind to what happened to that. You know, there could be lots of things behind that. But you know, it's like 9/11. You know, what they said, the fears behind that. I mean, you know, how they said about the drone planes, you know, which were exactly forensic, you know, the same size as it, etc. as the planes that went missing, or what they said, you know, hit the towers, you know, from how fast they hit the towers, how quick it was. No one was expecting it, you know, only it took witnesses, you know, who actually had enough time to notice, to say they didn't see the windows on the side of those planes, you know, like the Flight 93, I think it was, you know, about the debris from that crash and what happened to that. That was weird as well. You know, the story behind that. So, you know, as I said, you know, if you can sit without looking at just believing what the media tells you, and just imagine you as someone who wanted to fake something, you know, imagine the mind state of that person. All you would have to do, you know, is get that piece of plane, put it there on that beach, and then just get the media to say, you know, we found this on the beach, this is the M370. You know, it's not that hard, you know, to do. And like I said, this is based on, you know, like even boat wreckages and stuff, you know, when they wash ashore, you know, there's always a lot of pieces of, you know, like the boat even if they're not in the same area, they're always spread across the beach where they're found. And yet, no, the whole size of this plane, all they found was that tiny little panel, that tiny, which is tiny compared to the plane. And when you start connecting dots together, asking yourself, why, and what's going on there, if you really can see what I'm seeing. And this is how I'm just thinking as I go along. You'd start asking questions as well. So, so that's saying it disappeared on May the 8th, 2000. I see it's being a pain in the ass again. They're saying that closed, it went missing on May the 8th, which is weird, because I swear, back on there it was saying March the 8th anyway. First of all, which is weird. Yeah, look, M370, they're saying on there it went missing on March the 8th, first of all, and then on that one it's saying May the 8th. There's lots of weird things in the whole story coming from the same paper, mainly. Like first of all, where the MH17 was flying to. I'll try and recap on this. I'll try and put it across. First of all, they're saying it was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. And then another one saying it was flying from Amsterdam to Australia. This plane. And then there's the trying to recap, my mind's fading. That, as I said, the contradictory things about that, about the one article, saying that a US air pilot shot down the plane, because they thought it had been hacked, hijacked, etc. And yet, that was never mentioned, and they never said about that. They carried on the search long after, as if based on these articles, as if they didn't know about it. That doesn't make sense either. Till the point, not long after, ages after, they're saying they found it washed up on the sea. No mention of this plane shooting it down, which they reported the same paper. The other one saying Putin had it hijacked by, can't remember what he said, secret, whatever it was. And the same article saying a British telecom company said they caught the radar ping, off, 7 hours after it had gone missing, which wasn't even mentioned anywhere until later on in the article anyway. And like I said, ask yourself, a plane they knew was missing, and there's two sides to this. A plane that they knew was missing, like on the radar echoes, they would have known it was a commercial airline. Either way, they would have known it was a possible hijack order or hijacked. It was a security threat because of 9/11, as I said. And yet, this telecom company didn't call in for jet fighters and security and that to trace it down, chase after it, etc. Keep an eye on it. It's as if they just sat there, let it fly off in in any direction where there's loads of cities with buildings and populations. It doesn't make sense. Same article saying, even though they haven't got pictures from the satellite image, that it was landed in Kazakhstan. Possibly, at the same time, based on what they're saying of Vladimir Putin, based on his motives, what wouldn't make sense with what I would put across, because they're saying, that it was on the same article further down, that it was most likely crashed in the sea, and later on it was. So what makes me blank that one out is, what would it be gained from it? Because as I said, if it was to hijack a plane and then crash it into the sea, the man wouldn't have made any money or profit from it. How could you make profit from a plane? And what would your purpose be? To hijack a plane, land it on an air strip in Kazakhstan, and then crash it into the sea And then again, who would be crazy enough to basically kamikaze themselves into the sea and kill themselves in the sea as that pilot, and what would their purpose be for it? Because you know they didn't attack a target or anything if it was any kind of attack anyway, so you know that doesn't make sense either. You know, there's a lot of holes behind those two stories, first of all, you know, to me anyway, the way I see it. And as I said, you know, again back to the debris and what I said on that, you know, little panel. And you know, the fact it was a worldwide search tied in with, you know, both of those things, like the radar ping thing. You know, when it was a when it was a worldwide search, because I remember that, you know, as soon as it went missing, I'm talking about a worldwide search. Every country, every nation across the world, you know, had their eyes out for it, is what they were saying. And as I said, you know, based on 9/11, even as they said it, the potential for attack. And you know what I don't get is this British telecoms company is saying they caught it on the radar. First of all, you know, and that doesn't make sense to me, because you know, well, you would have to ask yourself, they're looking for this plane, you know, on the worldwide search. This British telecom company catch it on radar, and yet, you know, that's reported later on for starters. You know, nobody, you know, there were no reports of them tracking it down, which they would have done straight away, you know, as soon as they caught it on radar. You know what, all of this stuff doesn't make sense to me, you know, based on that as well. You know, there's a lot of holes in it. So, you know, if you ask me, then that's just based on the story. And then, as I said, you know, the fact that this same paper is saying that the M370 went missing on March the 8th, 2015, then 2014, then May the 8th, 2014. You know, even one March or May is still before June, July, where they said this, you know, where the MH17 got shot down. And you know, a couple of months before that, this M370 Malaysian plane, the same airline, the same, near enough same model, went missing as well. You know, and what they say, the MH17, you know, there was debris left in the Ukraine, you know, in Therese, around that area, East Ukraine. And you know, then you fast forward to Perth, Australia, 2015, you know, where they find a little tiny bit of this massive plane, you know, sitting on the beach, just sitting there perfectly. You know, to me, there's something beyond that, first of all. And then, as I said, tying the, you know, the numbers on the back of the planes, where the D and the O look very similar, you know, and every other letter is the same. You know, to me, there's something weird about everything about that. You know, how these planes, you know, are very similar, you know, whatever the markings are, you know, went missing. One crashed, one went missing, or one was shut down, one went missing. You know, to me, it's more than suspicious. So, you know, that's what I tried to put across from my side. You know, just from based on that. You know, a little bit of theory, mainly critical thinking and stuff. And as I said, yeah, I don't know if I remember saying that, but as I said, you know, the flight path, one Kuala Lumpur, one Australia, you know, make your mind up about where they were going. You know, so that's all I leave on that, what I put across, you know, as I saw it. And, you know, if you can't see that for yourself, then I have no hope for you. And, you know, regarding, you know, this, regarding this, I've got 5 minutes left, I'm trying to keep it an hour. But regarding this thing where people are being biased towards, you know, either side, you know, to me, as I said, you know, with this, where it's basically US, Ukraine, Russian conflict, you know, to me it's not about being on anyone's side. To me it's, you know, looking at it to see what the story is first of all, who's behind it, which is why I went for that document. But you know, the main important part, which is what I left on the end of that recording, is preventing a very serious war. you know, people don't realise, as I said, you know, what I remember about the Cold War, what that was close to. You know, that was about using atomic bombs and stuff like that. You know, WMDs, you know, they were very close to. And what I see the World War III as is exactly the same. But I don't think it will be prevented when it happened. You know, people don't realise, you know, the seriousness of this whole conflict and what can happen, which is why I'm trying to, you know, put that out there myself to try and stop it the best I can. You know, because all it's done is already caused a lot of trouble, you know, however it started, and now, you know, it's getting close to, you know, very close to happening. You know, I don't know if I've still got it on my computer, but you know, I've got a picture I found, and where they shown, you know, the computer's being really slow, but there's a picture actually showing the nuclear capability of, you know, it's mainly Russia and USA and China. And you know, if you look at, if I can find it, if you see, you know, the amount of missiles in that picture, it's insane, you know. And people don't realise, you know, the power of those things individually. I mean, Israel have nuclear power as well, you know, nuclear weapons. North Korea as well. There's so many countries, you know, out there that if they were fired off at the same time, you know, even I can tell from this picture, you know, that it would absolutely destroy the earth, and that's no lie. You know, and whatever ones were fired off to, you know, wherever they hit, you know, there would be a lot of lives lost through those in the first place. And you know, it's going to be, if this does happen, people don't realise, it'll be very, very hectic. You know, you look at World War II, you know, the last World War, that'll look like, you know, that'll look like nothing compared to what could happen in this one. Like I said, you know, like the military warfare that they have today, you know, and I'm not just talking about, you know, like tank, you know, obviously WMDs, but the tanks, and as I said, there's jet fighters nowadays with missiles on them and stuff. You know, back World War II, it was just propeller planes with, you know, like guns on them and stuff. You know, today it's very hectic, so, you know, this is why I'm trying to put my word out there to try and stop something bad happening. And like I said in the last video, to me, you know, and I'm just well, you know, I'm just a normal dude, I'm not even part of the government. You know, if the UN can sit there and justify you know, a war over, you know, shooting down a plane, whatever the matter is, without looking into it anyway, like I did, you know, to justify going to a war, it should be very hectic, just over a plane. You know, to me that, you know, that's stupid to me. Because if I can see that, then how can they be, you know, leading, you know, countries, the United Nations in the first place? So, you know, I know I had it somewhere, but yeah, you know, I've got it on my phone, and basically, wherever I found it, it shows a real, very powerful nuclear capability. It's insane. I did leave it on one of my videos that I put up, but where I put it, I'm not sure. It's taking its time to reload up. But you know, it's always a pain when I'm trying to find something. But yeah, let's see if I can find it on here. I think it's the 9/11 forensics video I put up. It might be on that one. You know, somewhere in that video, you know, I left that picture in there. Might have saw it anyway. I don't know if I can find it. Where I saw it somewhere. Basically, the one I saw you know, that's what will be happening. You know, basically, if it was the best presentation compared to what I'm seeing on here anyway. But I can't see how people. No, I can't see it on here. But what did she? I don't know what that. I won't let me see it, but you know, it's on the. I think it's the 9/11. Forensics, ISIS and 7/7 thing up video I put up. It might be on that one. You know, somewhere in that video. You know, I left that picture on there, and it's so crazy. You know, if you see it, I'll try and find it. But yeah, you know, if you saw yourself, and that's what will be happening. You know, basically, if this kicks off between Russia and the US mainly, and you know everyone else who gets involved, as I mentioned in that, and you know, I can't see how people with a mind state, you know, they'd rather, you know, see glorified war and just to fight over biased views anyway in the first place. As you know, a way to resolve conflict, you know, rather than, you know, look at the important matter, which is why I said contradictory of people who call me biased. Because, you know, to me, I'm basing it on preventing a war, you know, no matter what side it would have outcome to be, you know, to stop a war. You know, to look at it thoroughly, which is how I found out through that article, through that document and recording I made. But you know, people always, you know, they use their bias from their emotions, or you know, they're just biased towards whatever country between the war is. You know, about focusing on the important matter. Because you know, as I said, you know, it'll be more of a concern to people who actually have families in the army anyway. Because you know or the military, because those people, husbands, wives, and that, you know, have to go out there and risk their lives in the first place. For starters, but you know, there's people who actually glorify the military and stuff in a lot of countries as well, and those same people will actually be justifying over their bias towards countries and stuff involved in the war without even thinking to themselves, these soldiers they glorify and stuff. You know, are going to go out there to risk their lives over something, you know, that can be stopped, over something that shouldn't even be leading to a war anyway, as I said, because, you know, if the case was, or is whatever, you know, based on Vladimir Putin being behind MH17 and that, put it on that side, the UN, you know, to my view anyway, the way I see it is they should, you know, investigate it properly in that, and then they should send him to court and that, you know, and do one of those. I don't know what they are, but you know, instead of you know, saying they'll sanction Russia, and then they're saying, you know, now they're bringing NATO forces into Russia, and you know, it's already, and you know, any time it's about to start, you know, a big war's going to go off. You know, to me that's not right in my opinion. And as I said, if I can see that, then why can't the UN and that see that themselves? You know, so, you know, based on the selfish people who might not be concerned, because, you know, they might be thinking it will only be happening in mainland Europe where all these WMDs might go off. You know, you don't know where they could go off. And, you know, saying you're in Britain, you're America, and you're seeing it from that view. Well, as I said, you know, when this is between those two sides, you don't know, you know, when the UK will be involved as well. You don't know where all these WMDs will be fired anyway. So if you're selfish and you're, you know, not thinking that it could be possible to happen where you are in your country or wherever, you know, think again, because, you know, WMDs, they could be fired anywhere. You know, anywhere they want to fire at each other. So, you know, sometimes, you know, if that's another way to get the selfish people to think about that when it concerns themselves, well, you know, think about that one. Because like I said, WMDs, look them up and you see what they can do. And then ask yourself, you know, a war involving, which will mainly be these, amongst a lot of other carnage and, you know, a lot of people dying for nothing. You know, ask yourself, is it worth just sitting back and you know, just looking at it from the side of, oh, I'm on their side because I like them and I'm not on theirs, so let's go to war, instead of, you know, focus on the important matter about, you know, what will happen and what can be prevented from actually looking at it without emotions involved. You know, that's all I'll leave on it, and it's always up to you to take the choice and decide.